Oh, yeah. Sue, have you opened up yet?
Yes, I have.
Sorry, have you opened it for everybody else?
Yes, they're joining now.
Yeah. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. We will be starting very shortly. We're just waiting for a few more people to join us. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our session this morning on Better Business Plans, presented to you by John McCleverty. I just want to run through the etiquette for the call, please. So you all should be on muted, so please keep yourself muted. And all Q&A will be directed via the chat function. So please, if you have any questions during the presentations, just pop your question into the chat and we will endeavour to answer all the questions at the end of the session. Any technical problems, if you lose the link, just log off and log back on again. So I am going to pass you over now to Nick, who is manages the Astropreneurs program. And I'll stop sharing now, Nick, and it's over to you.
Hello, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for coming. Today is our last in our series of three webinars for the mentoring section of the Astropreneurs. So we have for you today Don McCleverty, who is for a long time the chief executive of the largest and most important SME innovation company in Oxfordshire, which basically means it's one of the largest ones in the UK as well. So he has a long experience in what he's going to talk about now. Just to remind you of the previous ones, we've had two in the mentoring series, two previous ones, grants and how to improve your chances, and an introduction to the space industry. And we have recently just finished 5 in a series of general webinars about space technologies used in other industries. So they are agriculture, government, finance sector, manufacturing, and an introduction to orbit. So all of those are available on the Astropreneurs website. They will be shortly or at some point in the near term. So if you can go there, please feel free. So that's astropreneurs.eu. Anyway, welcome to this one. And I'm just handing over to you, Don. So if you could share your screen, and we'll come back to you when Don's finished for Q&A.
Thanks, Nick. Can you see that okay?
Yes, we can, Don.
Excellent. So thank you, Nick. Thank you, Sue. Welcome, everyone. My name is Don McCleverty. As Nick has given you a little bit about my background, for the next 30 minutes or so, I want to talk about this great title, Better Business Plans, Increasing Your Chance of Getting Funded. My details, my email address, my web information are on this first page if you want to be in touch. So what are we going to do today? Hold on. Presentation is frozen. I might come out, Nick, and it's not moving along like it was before.
Okay.
So
if you click on it, wake it up.
Let me just try.
Stop sharing and start again.
Yeah, I'll do that. Sorry about that, everyone.
Yeah, and presentation mode.
So,
Good.
Hopefully, apologies everyone, hopefully that'll work now. Yes. So today, what I want to do is to, in terms of structure, have a little bit of introduction, talk about business plans. The thing about the introductions, by the way, is I'm going to ask you all to do something for me. So I hope that will be okay. The business plan, inevitably, in that section, there'll be lists, but I won't read them all out, but I'll pick up the things that I think are important. And the really big thing I want to get across is a sense of what makes a good business plan and where errors can be made. So please pick up on any questions in the Q&A. Around investors, I think it's important that we realise that when we produce this perfect business plan, we've got to connect with investors. Investors have their needs, and I think the big thing to remember, and I'll have a little section on this, is that you're talking to a person who's assessing you as much as your business plan, and equally you should be assessing them. Of course, when you do meet with a business, with an investor or potential investor, you won't just read your business plan. There's a slide deck, most of you will know that. And once you, so I've got a little section here where I'll be talking about what a little bit of research has been carried out on how investors look at Slidex, particularly seed investors. And then last, but absolutely not least, I want to touch, and it literally is a touch, on business model canvas, okay, which is a way to look at your business before you write your business plan, okay. And then there's Q&As. So my background experience, Nick has told you a little bit about that. All I really want to stress is that since leaving Oxford Innovation, where I actually, as part of what I did, ran 3 angel networks, so I have history. I've been mainly working as a mentor to SMEs seeking to produce business plans for a variety of reasons, not solely for fundraising. So in working together, I think it's important to just say this is an overview presentation. There'll be one-to-one mentoring sessions available. Nick will tell you about that. And if should there be a need later on, there'll be opportunity to have potentially future sessions. Up to you, Nick. And my ask is the next slide. So this is the value proposition ad lib. And I'll just read this one out, because when you fill it in, it's going to say, our product or service helps these customers who want to get this thing done, whatever that is, by either removing a problem that our product or service will help them to do, or getting some competitive advantage by using our product, unlike those competitors who aren't as good as us and we will whip in the market. I made that bit up, but it's basically around trying to encapsulate what it is that your customer's problem is and how your service or product will overcome that. And if you do this, and I suggest this to everyone that I work with, it allows you to know your product, know your customer, know what you're going to do for them, and be articulate that really quickly and crisply, as well as explaining why you're better than the competition. So, just going right back to the beginning, business ideas are really critical to our society and critical to what we do. So normally in a business startup, someone has an idea. It's something really clever, it's something really innovative. And then the next stage of the process is that they come up with some sort of rationale as to how to capture value from that idea. And that normally involves creating an organization that delivers this sort of idea to customers that it can help. And then they write that down in a business plan. Okay? And that business plan is written should be for 2 reasons. One, to raise funds, but also to allow you to run the business. And even if when you just raise funds, or if you raise funds, that document that you write is something that your investors will maybe ask you to manage your business to. Okay? So, business plan. What does the British government say? I looked this one up on the BEIS website, and it basically explains, and I think it's quite a good explanation of what it is a business plan is for and what it does. It takes the idea out of your head, and I've met a lot of people who say, it makes a lot of sense here, I just can't explain it to people. But if you have a written document and you force yourself to write it, it helps you to clarify your ideas, it helps you to spot problems, get your goals. But it's really important that you are able to do that if you want to be able to get someone to invest equity into your business, or even get a loan from a bank. And I recognise that most of you will not be in the bank loan situation, but if you're looking for an equity investment or looking for a grant, really important to have a plan. I would also signpost you all to the British Business Angels Association, which has a different definition. It's 7 pages, I think. I looked at it yesterday, and it has it's quite fulsome in advice on what could be in each section. So, the elements that can go into a business, that should go into a business plan, are the executive summary. I'll touch on that later on, but essentially, it's a précis of the plan. Come on to that. Business opportunity, I've talked about that to a degree, the problem, the solution that you're going to be addressing. The market, who are you competing with? What's the opportunity? And the next one, most people don't have a problem with, is the product and service, where a lot of people, where I see their business plans, talk a lot about the product and service because that's what they love, that's what they enjoy, that's what they've technically developed. But it's part of the business plan. It's not the bigger part of it in terms of, it needs to be there, otherwise you won't have a business, but in trying to persuade someone to invest in you, it's part of that. Strategies, sales and marketing, business development, really important that people understand how you're going to exploit that market. Team, having a good team, everybody knows that, and we know that, but it's essentially, what is the value of the individuals that are in your organisation chart that you're going to put in there in terms of moving and advancing your business, okay? And defence, any IP, how can you protect the business once you get the funds and you develop the service and you launch? Finance, really important, because if someone's going to give you money, they want to know what you're going to do with it. And always odd at the beginning, but really important, is when you start the business to make sure that your investor knows where you're going and what you think the likely exit could be. So if those are the things that are the elements of it, standing aside from that, what's really important? One, it's got to be well written. You know, it's got to be a story at the beginning, middle, and end. It's got to answer the questions that investors have of your business. And it's got to be able to deliver credibility in you, your business, to the investor, but also put through some excitement that the investor knows that this is a really good place to be and wants to invest in you. And at the end of reading your plan, the investor should think, you know, or have enough information to know, I can now assess this properly from a financial point of view, and I understand how this business will be taken forward. A key part of this, I will, as I said at the beginning in the agenda, is I'll talk a bit about investors later on, but knowing their interests, knowing their objectives, knowing what whether you're the sort of company that should be they are interested in, really important so you don't waste time, your time or their time, in a scattergun approach. What you need to do is to have more of a rifle shot where you are targeting specific people, who have specific organisations or people who really will be interested in what you have and can take things forward. The only reason I put this pie chart here is because depending on who you are talking to, once you know the investor, once you have your base plan, you should be tweaking your plan to meet the needs of the investor, that any particular new investor that you're talking to. So after you investigate the investor, you know who they are, you know what their interests are. They say on their website that they're really interested in understanding the team, how it fits together. Make sure your team section is really strong. Now, before I proceed in saying what I think is good and bad and strengths and weaknesses in plans that I've seen over the years, I saw a post from someone the other day who, I haven't seen him in 10 years, but he's a really great coach, and he put something on LinkedIn which was, 10 years ago, he was 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 10 ye on one level a bit sad. It was basically saying, why does everyone pick holes in the business plans of other people? You know, why can't they be more creative and positive? And he came up with two reasons. One is there's no right answer. And two, any reader or readers would say to themselves, I would have written this differently. I wouldn't have put it like this. I would have put it that way. So the advice that came out of his post was, when you write your plan, do bounce it around, share it with as many people, give you constructive critique as you can, because that way you'll get not just your friends telling you it's fantastic, but a rounded view that you can amend before you take it forward. Okay. So, having put that caveat, this is what I think is good. If I read a plan and it's achievable, I think this could work, it's realistic, it's measurable, but it's got ambition, I'm very happy, because it's something that I think your money that you're investing, or the investor's money, is going to be well spent and has a strong chance of achieving something. So specifically, I'm always looking for, do you know the problem the business is aiming to address? You'll have picked that up already from me. And alongside that, evidence that you know the subject. A clear understanding of what your viable solution is. And that's about what is it that you have got from the market feedback that's helped you shape what you're trying to do. And also, the last point there is addressable market. You know, it's all very well saying the world is my oyster, but after you've done some research, you'll know that this particular segment in a particular way is your sweet spot. That's really you should be looking. And that makes me think that you've really understood what you're trying to do. What makes a poor plan? I'm just going to pick on 3 or 4 points here. Leadership and the management team not seriously covered. And what I mean by that is, you know, equity investment, once they've invested, they can't get their money out until someone else buys them out, or you've made a success of it. So they've really got to believe that you, the management team, and you, the founder, are going to make a good fist of this. And it's really important that that comes across in the plan and in your face-to-face meetings that you will have. A failure to sell the future of the business. You know, for me, it's got to be not just a point, you know, this is a really good thing that's going to be an excellent thing for the next year or two, but beyond that, how can you take it forward? Because that hooks the investor in to a future that they can see growing with you. Yes, the one there where I said Google disagrees, assertions that there are no substitutes to this. This is totally unique. And the investor goes to Google and 1 million things come up that appear to be the same. So being very clear about why you have something unique and how it is unique. And lastly on this one, second from last there, is financials are incredible. Everyone will know this, but Excel is a great way to build fantasy football sort of stories. You need to make sure, not you, but say everyone needs to make sure that their financials are actually ones that can be justified. I'll come on to that later. Now, the next slide here, I'm not going to talk through it anyway, because I actually, the last slide was just my view on things. I actually went to someone who just turned a deal down recently and asked him specifically why he turned the deal down. And these are the reasons he gave. I won't go through it except for to say a lot of it is around not pushing the information hard enough, not giving him the information that he needs to actually make, it could be a she, but in this case it's a he, who to make the decisions that, have you got something that's really superior to your competitors? Do you know the journey that you're on, you know, in terms of future investment? Have you thought it through? So please just take a note of that later on. So I'm going to very quickly just whiz through some of the key points I think need to be addressed in the business plan. One, executive summary. As I said right at the beginning, it's a précis. It's not a contents page. It's a little plan of its own that if you left it with someone, they would really understand what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go. The reason why executive summaries are so important is that if someone reads it and decides not to pass it on, or not even to read the rest of the plan, that's not a good result. But I run angel networks. There's a woman working for me who actually Nick knows, and she used to read 850 plans a year for our business. And she read the executive summary and it didn't motivate her, or she couldn't think of which angel would be interested. She actually, I'm not convinced she would have read much further. So making sure that at this point it's around making sure they're interested in understanding more about the business and interested in reading your plan. Value proposition. I think I've done this one to death, but basically this is so important to me in terms of if no one understands the problem you're trying to solve and it's not concisely expressed, it will come up in different ways. They may not say you've got poor value proposition, but it will come up in a whole series of different ways forward, different questions when you negotiate with them. So please have another look at this. Market awareness, my third point. This is actually part of the Smart UK Smart Award application. It's their question 4, and it's about the market, which, to be honest, the Smart application is very much, you need to write a business plan to be able to extract the bits you need. But the point I want to pick up on this slide, I think it's a really good description of what you need to explain that you understand the market. But in particular, for this cohort of people, that last paragraph and last 2 bullet points, if your project is highly innovative, where the market really may not be understood or explored, yeah, on one degree, what can you do? All you can do is have a really good stab at it, but put your assumptions down and put down an understanding of how you will explore the market and learn about the market as you go forward. Okay, so then at least the reader will know, the investor will know that you know where you want to go with this. Okay, and the last one on business plan really is financials. Again, the only most of this is straightforward. I won't go through it all. The thing that was always really important to me is when I'm looking at financial projections is to understand the assumptions that you've made in going, in actually making the plan. At the end of the day, a forecast is based on assumptions, and if I agree with those assumptions, or I feel they're not bullish enough, it helps to know what it is that they are, so that I can make that view. Also, in terms of having a base case, it's always good to have alternative scenarios. What if it goes tremendously well? Or what if it has some sort of COVID moment? So something happens that slows it down. What are you going to do, or how would you deal with it? Really good to know that you've thought about it. And last slide on this one is, all business plans, I think, really should be the whole team working on it. So everyone has an input, everyone owns it. Yes, it has to have KPIs. Yes, you should have some sort of understanding of future investments that you might need year 2, year 3, just to give a clue. But when I say make it a living document, what I'm really saying there is it's really important to update your plan as you go along. It's probably obsolete a day or so after you've written it. So, on to investors. I've put here a slide format and the name of Ian Tracy, and those of you lucky enough to see his first webinar in this series on grants will know that he talked about investors, and I'm not going to repeat all of that. I would just say go back to that, please do go back to that presentation that he gave. If you look at his slides 28 and 35, it will give you detail about investors. And that's his LinkedIn, so please do connect him if you want to. So, in summary on your investors, I've done it in a slightly different way, just to make a few points. Equity investors, investment progressions, angels, VCs, and corporates. A big thing, particularly at the outset, is that an equity investment, you're selling a stake in your business. I've worked with startup entrepreneurs who said, I don't want to give anything away. you're not giving something away, you're selling something. And the key thing is to sell it for the best possible price. You're getting someone to take a stake in your business. And the other point in investors and taking equity investment is to make sure that you choose your bedfellows wisely. Once they've invested, whoever it is, they're there for the duration. So you want to make sure it's someone you can work with. They want to make sure it's someone you can work with. They can work with. It's just an important point. I think I've made the point before, investment progression. You'll start off with sweat equity, you'll start off with some seed investment, and then you'll go to a range of other investments as you build your business. Just remember, the deals you strike now will impact the shapes of deals you're able to strike in the future. So if you do a deal which stops you from doing something in the future, that probably isn't good. Angel investors and venture capitals, I'll deal in one on this one. They're very different. I sat for 8 years at the back of the room with angel investors, looking at people presenting when I was MD of Oxford Innovation. You're talking about high net worth individuals, rich people, or syndicates of rich people, whose motives are very different to the venture capital firm, which is basically investing typically pension fund money. And the angels are very focused on what they like. They're also very focused on tax schemes, EIS and SEIS. So if you haven't already looked at it or you don't know about it, look at the British Business Angel website, which has a lot of information on SEIS and EIS. In terms of venture capital, it's one of, there is an individual you'll be talking to. They have to bring you to investment committee. Make it easy for them, because they actually do need to do a deal, and they need to do a deal with someone that they want to work with. So why can't it be you? And corporate venturing, where a large corporation makes a strategic investment in a firm, again, a really good way to go if that works for you, but it's a different play. Their motives are much around what's good for their business and where the direction they think that you can help them go in. Now, because I know, I've talked a lot about angel investors and get to know them in your sector. I'm not from the space sector, but I did look up Seraphim, which I understand is the biggest investor in the UK in this space. What I would say is look at their website if you're looking for investment particularly in the UK. They actually, just a point of information, I looked at their website, and they're having an investor showcase today at 3 o'clock. So I'm not signed up for that, but it will just show you how they operate. One of the things that last slide showed was the difference between upstream and downstream space the characteristics, which came up with Mike Curtis's presentation last week. But what I would say is, in my understanding of the market, is that downstream is much more like regular tech, if there is such a thing, and the investment criteria are much the same as any other tech startup. Upstream, which is a bigger play, is a longer term, riskier bets, a different kettle of fish, and a longer term effort in getting funded. So, as well as being told that Seraphim were the biggest investor or the key investor, and they've got a great site with lots of information that might be useful, I asked around people that I know in the industry and said, who else are the general investors who invest in space? I've written a long list down of the names that came up, so I hope that will be helpful. I honestly haven't dealt with them, but I do know that people that I know in the space have said they would be good places to knock on the door. I've also put down some corporate venturers, and I've also put down on this a few billionaires. I've only known one person who's funded his business through addressing billionaires, who's done very well out of it, so not to be sniffed at. If you have something that is a moonshot, a major opportunity that would attract the likes of the gentleman written down there. So I'm now on to Slidex and how you present to VCs. I've only got 2 or 3 slides on this, but basically I know a young venture capital analyst who works in a firm, and he assessed between 25 and 30 companies a month. And because he's assertive, and I know him well, he he wrote on Medium a sort of approach of how to talk to him, which you only have with the youth. When you're 23, you can write that. And he basically said, and I don't think it's unique, the 10, 20, 30 rule, which is 10 slides, 10 minutes, and 30-point font in the depth that he wants to see. And he wrote down the content that he wants addressed in his slide presentation. And don't forget, the slide presentation, someone like, that person, it's he just wants to know enough to know how to have a conversation with you, what to ask you, and whether he should put it up to his investment committee as something that has promise. Okay, so the only thing that's different here, in maybe what I've said before, is title, problem. Why solve the problem now? Why is now the right time to take this forward? But the rest of it, I think, is more or less as I said before. There is a firm called Docsent, which some of you may have come across. I'm only going to show a little bit about them, which is basically they allow people to send securely their slide presentations to investors. They've done a piece of research, or they've asked some paid them off from Harvard Business School to do a piece of research on how people look at presentations, the dwell time on each of the slides in a presentation. I'm not saying that I believe all of this. I'm just saying you might want to download this and have a good look. It's interesting. I'm going to pull 2 points out from this, what they're calling their 7 actionable takeaways. Number 1, it says keep your deck to 20 pages or fewer. The gentleman in the last slide was saying 10. They're saying less than 20. They have an incredibly small, they're basically saying that the reading of and the dwell time on the decks is actually quite small. And it could be because they're just assessing it, should they take it any further? Should they tell the boss about it? I don't know. I think the next one is quite interesting. Raising seed funding will take longer than you think. Don't despair. And they're right in that. And when they look at the dwell time on particular pages in the slide deck, no surprise on one level that finance and team are out at the top. So they basically advise, really put some effort into, particularly the team, to make sure that people understand the quality of what is there in your company. And I'd also say, separately to what they're saying, be honest about any gaps you have in your management team. An investor can help you fill those gaps, and they'll find out soon enough. So you might as well bring them into the discussion. And so coming to the end of this now, business model canvas, which is the bit of the idea, business model, business plan, where I think that many companies hurry over this stage of it, which is you've got the idea, which is a series of hypotheses and untested hypotheses typically. The important point is to make these explicit so that you can validate your idea and do some digging around and find the best way to actually take the product to market. And by that I mean, should you set up a company? Should you license it? Should you go to a corporate and try to do a partnership? What's the best way of taking it forward? And then you can write a plan to deliver on that. This is what business model canvas looks like. Many of you may have seen it, but it's great when I see it on the wall and you've got a management team working around it. And right at the heart of that is a value proposition. So the right-hand side of the screen, you've got the income side, the customer segments, the channels, relationships, and revenue. On the left-hand side, you've got the cost structure, things that cost you money, but it allows you to play with your assumptions and come up with something that might be the basis of taking a business plan forward. And I'm not going to do this video because it takes 5 or 6 minutes, and I tried it yesterday, it went horribly wrong. So basically, there's a lot of material on YouTube on business model canvas. This is just one link, you'll find probably others. Please do take a look. And that's it. Q&A now. I'll stop sharing, Nick and Sue, and pass it over back to you. You got it, Nick?
Yeah, we're open.
Thank you very much, Don. Okay, We have some questions now. Just bear with me a second. Okay, Don, we have a question. During your slide on why the investor did not invest in an opportunity, you said that you need to push your idea hard via the competitors. How can you do this without making your business plan really long?
I'm not sure it's about length that he was complaining. I think what he was, and he was talking about this specific company, which I haven't seen this plan, so I can't comment. But I think that I've seen plans in the past where someone said, it's almost an assumption, we have a superior technology, we have a superior product, we have, it is much better than anybody else, yeah? But they don't actually explain why it is better, yeah? And there is a tricky bit in this, whoever asked the question, the tricky bit is around, you don't want to give too much information about your secrets, if you will. What is your secret source that's going to make this really work? But you need to say enough to actually make the reader understand that you truly have something that is superior. So I don't think he was complaining that it wasn't long enough, or I know the question was how do you make it not long. I think he was just saying bold statements saying we have something better without explaining why or giving a clue. Just leaves him with more questions.
Thank you. What exactly makes a good team?
Depends on the task you're trying to address, which is not. I'm not avoiding the question. It depends. It does. I think in this culture, the leader is clearly the person that who is the entrepreneur, and who is the person who when is going to really make this happen. And I know that in these days of worrying about people being pressurized and all the rest of it, who wakes up worrying about this every morning to make sure this is going to happen? I'm saying that particularly from an angel point of view, because once they put their money in, they can't get it out again unless you make it work. So a team is something where there's a leader, and each of the tasks, and this goes back to what my friend was saying, one of the bullet points he made about why he rejected his company, is the company hadn't put down what its technical gaps were and things that needed working on. He didn't know whether they had the right team to address those problems. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense, which is, if you know what the task is, if you know that to make this work, you've really got to have brilliant marketing, brilliant digital marketing, you need to make sure somewhere in that team, you've got someone who can really handle that and handle that really well.
Don, can I sort of add a bit to that? Just
please do.
Because I think it's a problem for a lot of companies. I agree with everything you said. I was just going to expand it on really. I think it's a lot of problem. It's a big problem for a lot of sort of startup companies where, you sort of inherit a team. It's you and your friend, or you and your colleague, or you've started off relatively small, and you think the bases have covered, but you're trying to hide the base, the other bits. And I think, I don't know whether this is true or not, John. It's really a question more than a statement. But I think it pays to be very open to the potential investor that you need more help in this area. You have a technical guy, but he's an electronic guy. He's not a mechanical guy, or vice versa. Or, you have a salesperson and they're very good for one sales channel, but not particularly for another one, or something like that. I think because if you've got no money and you don't quite, and you're trying to find your first load of your first sort of early stage funding, it's really difficult to get the perfect team. So
I agree.
I think honesty, if you don't have it, then honesty over the gaps is incredibly important.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. And you prompted me on another point about integrity and transparency, which is valued by investors, because once they start working with, they really need to know. But a good way of exploring that with them, or demonstrating it, is to say, these are the things we need to do to make this a success. This is what the challenges are going to be. This is what we're going to achieve. need to achieve. We've got this bit covered, we haven't got that. Do you know someone, or could you signpost us, or could you be part of that search? Because actually many investors, VCs and angels, want to be useful. They believe that they have wisdom. I mean, for those of us who've been venture funded in the past and angel funded in the past, we might have, my choose bedfellows wisely is quite an important point. I've had angels and companies that I've worked with have been fantastic, and some have been less fantastic. But I do think you're right, Nick, being open about, because it may well be that the person you're talking to, be it angel or VC, actually does know someone who might be able to fit that. It might be from a startup that, you know, checked out. It might be a startup that didn't go anywhere, and they may have in their black book, or, you know, of LinkedIn profiles, a list of names that might be really useful for you. So be transparent without giving away the IP. That's my big point.
Thank you, Don. You mentioned seed firms. Where might we get a list of angel investors?
That's a good question. So the answer is, there are you're better off trying to find an angel network, and this is, you know, where you can go and meet angels and they can signpost you to their friends. I don't know of a list of angels. You know, when angels tend to, there are celebrity angels who are all over the press, you know, I mean, and you can pick them up, just type, you know, famous angels or something into Google. I'm sure you'll get a load of people in Oxford, Cambridge, wherever you're based. But no, angel, if I looked at Onion, the angel network that I ran, we had three, Onion, TVI and OEI. They were different angels segmented by stage of the business growth. So OEI was targeting people who were really interested in, you know, something that's coming off the kitchen table, if you will, someone who nearly needed a lot of help and needed a relatively small amount of money. And then the next one, Onion, was very much angels who are interested in where you've got a minimal viable product, it works, and you need to go and market it. And they were much more interested in helping people to do that. But would they give their names up? No. Would we share their names? No, because they were our asset, if you will, in getting investment made, because we made a commission on them. You would do well to look at that British Business Angels group, because it has a list of seed funders there, but I'm not sure you'll get a list of angel investors. My advice would be to go to as many meetings as possible, either online right now, or when it all opens up again face to face. And sorry, last point is angels know each other, and one will, in my experience, you get someone who meets a company who says, this is really brilliant, I can put in 50k or 100k, and they go out as a lead investor and talk to other angels who would come and corral them almost and persuade them to talk to you. And if they all agreed, you might have a syndicated deal.
Thank you. How long does it take to raise funds?
So that's a really good question. And the short answer is it depends. And it depends on a lot of things, but typically a more useful answer may be that when I ran the angel networks, which weren't specifically satellite, that's the point I want to make, and were very general, it was tech, mainly med tech, but we had two sort of peaks when after the presentation. So after you've presented in front of the angels, how long does it take after that? Typically there was one peak at 3 to 4 months, where it was the angel loves the entrepreneur loves the angel. They've made it's so obvious that they're going to work together, they go off and do a deal. And there was another peak at say 9, 10, 12 months, where they like each other, but they need to learn about each other. They need to actually understand, you know, particularly the angel, about what it is they want this company, you know, is this a company they really feel they can, you know, get into bed with and invest in. And so that was them. All I would say is be resilient. It can take a very long time. And I think one of the things that came out of that that doc sign thing is be resilient. They were talking in America, I think, about 3 months or so, which struck me as being very quick. I think many people I know are spending a very long time getting funded, a year and a half, and right now with COVID, it may be even longer.
Thanks, Don.
So, but don't. The point I was going to say, don't get disheartened. Don't despair. Learn from what people are saying to you, because all investors are different. Even VCs, there are different categories in investors, and they have different appetites. And you may well find someone who needs what you've got.
Thank you. What are the most common reasons for being turned down by an investor?
Depends. So again, with angels, my biggest frustration, and I ran Angel, and I wasn't doing all the work. I was the MD, and Eileen, you might know Sue, did actually all the work. And my biggest frustration at the back of the room, or 2 meetings on from someone presenting, is why didn't you back this one? And they'd say, I don't like the guy. And you say, no, what does that mean? I just don't like it. I don't like them. And equally, I've had people who've come to me, and I've brought them into the network as a high net worth individual. He's sold his, because quite a lot of the angels have sold they're entrepreneurs. They've started their own businesses. They've sold them. And now at an advanced age, they want to invest in firms and do well with those firms. And they all, so this guy with a telco background, he wanted to invest in telco. In the end, the first investment he made was in an offshore drilling company. And I remember saying to him over the coffee afterwards, you said, this doesn't fit anything you said you wanted. This does not make sense to me. Can you explain? And he said, I like the guys. They sell it to me. They're charismatic. They're going to make a success of it. I can enjoy this. This is a good one. So I'm a bit worried, Nick, you need to correct me that I'm saying it's all on personal charisma and whatever, but I think that does play a part in it, finding a soulmate, as well as having a really good technology, really good solution, all the things we've just been said, but clicking with a person who might invest, be it VC or investor, an angel investor.
Thank you, Dom. Okay, that's the end of the questions, so I'll hand back over to Nick.
Okay, thank you very much, Sue. I've got one other point to add, actually, Don, which I thought was the, again, one thing that I've come across really is this sort of failure to sell the idea in comparison with whatever else is going on. And this sort of, it's this sort of Google search syndrome that you mentioned that I thought was, what resonated with me anyway, that unless they're from your sector, when you try and explain whatever it is you're trying to do, they don't really appreciate whether why you're just sort of 2 people from London or Oxford or Newcastle or wherever going to sort of beat the world on this. If this is an interesting market, how come you've got something that the world doesn't? So they Google search it and they come up with a whole bunch of sort of people who are doing exactly the same or what appear to be exactly the same. And I think that process of you Google searching what it is you're trying to sell is quite powerful, because then you can sort of pitch your idea as being separate from the rest. Does that make sense? Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, two things that I'd say. You guys, I don't know the cohort, but you're special people because you've gone out, you've got an idea, you're trying to take it forward. That's good. That's really very good. And, for lots of reasons, that's to be admired and, really, really important for society. But also, if you're a venture capital firm, you've gone and raised money. I'm going to get to your point in a second, but you've gone out and raised money from billionaires or Saudi princes or pension funds or whatever, and you've got to make a return. You've actually got to spend the money by investing it into firms that you think are going to be successful. And therefore, you're looking for something, and also that many firms don't make it. So you're looking for something, you're always looking for something that's going to be really, really special, that's going to be 10 times the money you put in. You put $500,000 in, you're going to get 5 million back in when they sell out to Microsoft or Google in a few years. So yeah. So seeing that there is a market, I think the thing about my friend who didn't back that thing was saying on that Google search thing is, I think he was really pointing out the lack of awareness that the organization he was talking to had, that they didn't understand how they set in the market, rather than saying, but it affirms that there is some sort of market, and what he'll be trying to do is to say, what is special about what you have? And you explaining that, what is special and how it can be commercialized is really what it's about. I mean, I wasn't going to do this, Nick, but I'm going to do it now, which is, this is a book. I don't advise that everybody reads it, but I'm in the middle of reading it. It's called The Business of Venture Capital. It's horrendously expensive, cost me 67 quid. But I decided I wanted to read it because someone I know recommended it to me. And they've got some fantastic war stories in there that I wouldn't believe. You know, how did Intel get funded? You know, Bob Noyce phoned up a VC and said, you know, 7 of us are leaving Fairchild. We need 2.5 million quid. What do you do? What's the deal? And the man said, I'll take 50% of the company for 2.5 million quid. And apparently folklore said that's true. Same as the stories about how does Jobs get funded? How does Zuckerberg get funded? Now, the trouble is, I'm not a Zuckerberg, I'm not a Jobs, but it's finding a relationship where that you are transparent. You have something that is believable, that people believe in you, and that they're willing to invest in. Nick, did I go off subject there? If I did, come back to the point, please, and I'll answer it again.
No, that's fine. That's great. Thank you very much indeed. So just as a wrap up then, thank you very, very much, Don. I think that was very good. And thank you to all of you for attending. We obviously appreciate you coming to these things because they're set up really for you, and hopefully they're very helpful. As you know, most of you will be having one-to-ones with Don on the particular subject, so you can ask confidential questions then, or just sort of clarity questions. And the slides and the recording will be available shortly, so we'll send those out to you, you know, as quickly as we can. Hopefully a small number of days, and hopefully by next week. As I mentioned before, this is the third and currently the sort of final, certainly spring-summer series. So hopefully we'll be back in September with these sort of subjects. So please let us know if you've got any subjects you'd like us to cover, and we'll try and cover them for you. But just to remind you, we have grants, how to improve your chances, introduction to the space industry, sort of who are the big players and who are the suppliers and customers. And this one, the sort of better business plan. So thank you very much indeed, everybody, for coming. And if we don't speak to you before the end of the summer, have a great summer. We'll speak again in another webinar in September time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.